Hello, fashion enthusiasts. You're welcome to TF Designs. I'm Tia, and today we're going to be learning how to draft a beautiful top with drawstrings. So here are the materials I'm going to be needing. Okay, I'm going to be needing my measuring tape. I'm going to be needing my pattern master, my pin cushion and pins, my cutting scissors, tailor's chalk, and also my front pattern. If you don't know how to do this, I'm going to be leaving the link in the description box. I'm going to be making use of those beautiful silk fabric. Now, this fabric always have a beautiful result, like the effects is always nice, it drapes well. But then working with it can be funny. So yeah, I'm just going to fold into two, then I'm going to fold again. I'll be cutting my front and the back pattern together. Why? This is a free top and it's a simple top, so there's no zipper. So yeah, I folded my fabric as you can see into four. So I have the front and the back together. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to place my pattern, my front pattern. I'm making use of my front pattern, please. I just place my front pattern on it, and I'm going to go ahead to determine the length of my top. I'm going to be making use of 25 inches. This is together with my seam allowance, together with my allowance for turning in or for folding in. So I'm just going ahead to determining my length, like I said. And you can see I'm also trying to mark that down with my chalk. I'm sorry, this is not too visible. Okay, I'll still highlight it. So I went ahead to just make this straight with my ruler. So from here, the next thing I want to do is to go to the side seam. To the side seam, I added about 5 inches. Then I went to the upper part. I just followed that slope line on my shoulder and I added about 8 inches to this, to my shoulder measurements. So I just followed it. Remember, we have seam allowance there already, so I'll not be adding any seam allowance. Also, I came down by 8 inches toward my armhole and I came in from that point by like about 1 inches. Okay, so I joined this line together with my top length. I had to connect it down to my top length. So, and on my waist, I just divided my waist measurement by two, and I have by four rather. I have like 7 inches. I multiplied that by two, and I inserted that measurement, which is like 14 inches. So I just connected everything together, and we're almost done here. So I went on toward the ample region to make a slight curve so that I'll not have a sharp end when I'm done sewing my top. Okay, so at this point, where it's getting all put together, then I realize for this particular top, it's nice with a v-neck. So I decided to change my neckline, but my neck width was the same with my pattern. But for my neck depth, I came down by 7 inches, and I'm using the same neck depth for both the front and the back pattern. Okay, so at this point, I'm satisfied and I just went ahead with my scissors to cut everything. If you notice, I did not add any seam allowance to the shoulder. This is because I already have seam allowance added on my pattern. But for the lower side, I added seam allowance together with my measurement. So that means I'll end up having 24 inches for my top at the end of the day instead of 25. So after cutting, this is what it looks like for both the front and the back pattern. I also went ahead to cut strips of fabric, which I'm going to be using for my rope. This is about 1.5 inches and the length is 60 inches. So I just went ahead to cut. As you can see, this is it here. This is it. I have like 1.5 inches and about 60 inches. I'm going to be folding this to create my rope that I'll be using for my drawstring. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is to create a crease with my iron so that I'll be able to know the middle point. Remember that this fabric is really slippery. So depending on the fabric you work with, if you work with something more structured, you can just go ahead with your ruler to determine the middle point. But I think this iron just works fine. It just makes the work so easy. So I just went ahead with my iron to create my crease. As you can see, everything is all put together. I also cut out this fabric. I'm sorry I did not show you this, about 2.5 inches, and this is what I'm going to be using to create the casing for my drawstring. So I'm just here on my sewing machine and I'm sewing about zero point 0.5 inches away from my crease line. And look at the way I placed this particular fabric. It's like the right side facing the right side, okay? So after doing this, I went ahead, I left about zero point 0.5 inches on the upper and lower parts, okay? So at this point now, what I'm going to do is to turn it over. I just flip it over and I'm going to be top stitching on this particular point to be able to create my casing. So I left about zero point 0.5 inches on the upper part before sewing so that I'll be able to turn my neck effectively with my facing. So yeah, I just went ahead to sew this down. I top stitched down to the end point. So also I went on to fold in my rope. As you can see, I'm just doing that with my hands. It's very really easy. Just close twice, just fold twice. And I just went on to do this. You have to take your time here. After I'm done with my casing, I went on to divide my casing into two equally. And that's why I used about 2.5 inches, as you can see. So on this line that I marked, I'm just going to be sewing on this, as you can see, so that I'll end up having two ropes going through this. Also went ahead to top stitch the first part we sewed down earlier, and after that I went in with my safety pin and my rope, and I'm going to be inserting my rope to create, give you that runch effect. So that's what I'm just doing here, as you can see. And be careful not to pass in your rope through it. At the end of the day, that is zero point 0.5 I left is what I'm going to be stitching down. And I ensure that I'm holding my rope with a pin at the back to ensure that I'm getting it together. So at the end of it all, I do the same for the first part and the second part. And if you try pulling your my rope at this point in time, you can just see that everything is put together. So I also went on to pin in my side, my back and my front together, and I just went on to sew every other part. The neckline has been turned with facing, the side seam. I just went on to sew everything round. And after I'm done with that, this is the effect. This is the effect. As you can see, I love this top. It's so beautiful, so stylish, and I love the effect of the silk on it. It makes it drape so well. So fam, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Would you be rocking this? Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe.